The signal came at midnight. It wasn't like anything humans had ever received before. The radio telescopes at the Deep Space Network picked it up first, followed by every major observatory around the world. The message was clear, structured, and definitely not natural. Dr. James Walker stared at his computer screen, his coffee growing cold beside him. After 20 years of searching for alien life, they had finally found it. Or rather, it had found them. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the analysis again. The message wasn't just a simple greeting or mathematical sequence. It was a full communication protocol, complete with translation matrices and visual encoding. Whoever sent this wanted to talk, and they wanted to talk now. Within hours, the facility buzzed with activity. Government officials arrived in black cars, military personnel secured the premises, and scientists from around the world connected through video calls. The message had been sent from what appeared to be a massive space station at the edge of our solar system. A station that hadn't been there just days ago. The first images they decoded showed beings of different shapes and sizes, 12 distinct species, all gathered in what looked like a grand council chamber. They called themselves the Galactic Council, the governing body of known space. But something was off about their message. "Look at their body language," James pointed out to his colleague. Even through the alien appearances, he could see it. The slight tremors, the quick movements, the way they seemed to huddle together. These weren't just representatives making first contact. They were nervous. The Council's message was polite but urgent. They requested Earth to send representatives immediately. A ship would arrive in 7 days to transport them to the Council station. The world's governments scrambled to select their delegates, eventually choosing a mix of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. James found himself appointed as the lead scientific advisor for the mission. As he packed his bags, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very different about this first contact scenario. In all the science fiction he'd read, aliens either came as conquerors or benevolent teachers. These aliens seemed worried. The ship arrived exactly when they said it would. It descended through Earth's atmosphere with impossible grace, a sleek vessel that seemed to ignore physics itself. The human delegation, 20 people in total, boarded with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The alien crew were efficient but distant. They belonged to a species that seemed specialized for space travel, with long, slim bodies adapted to zero gravity. Yet they barely spoke to the humans, only giving necessary instructions through a translation device. During the journey, James spent his time studying the Council's initial message. The more he analyzed it, the more his unease grew. Hidden in the complex layers of the transmission was something he hadn't noticed before. The Council had been watching Earth for quite some time. They had data on human development, our technological progress, our biology, our social structures. But why wait until now to make contact? The answer came to him just as their ship approached the Council station. Buried in the data was a comparison chart. It showed the development patterns of different species, each following a clear, specialized path. Some evolved for strength, others for intelligence, some for space travel, others for technological innovation. Each species had their niche, their specialty, except humans. The human pattern was different. It showed moderate development across all areas, a generalist approach that seemed to disturb the Council greatly. We weren't specialized. We weren't following any of the normal evolutionary paths they had seen before. As the ship docked with the massive station, James looked out at the structure that would change humanity's future forever. He understood now why the Council was nervous. We weren't just a new species to them. We were something entirely new. The door to their ship opened, and the human delegation prepared to step into a galaxy that feared what they represented. A species that refused to be placed in a single box. The Council chamber was enormous, with ceilings so high it disappeared into shadows. 20 humans stood before the gathered representatives of 12 alien species, each more strange than the last. The air felt thick with tension. James studied each alien species with fascination. To his left sat the builders, their crystalline bodies reflecting light in complex patterns. They had evolved to create incredible structures, their very bodies capable of understanding materials at a molecular level. Next to them were the minds, beings of pure energy contained in specially designed suits. They had given up their physical forms centuries ago to pursue ultimate intelligence. The runners, with their sleek bodies and multiple legs, could cross vast distances without tiring. The shapers could manipulate gravity itself. Each species had evolved to absolute perfection in their chosen field, but none showed any ability outside their specialty. The head counselor, a member of the ancient navigator species, floated forward in their gravity chair. Humans, they spoke through the translation device. You represent something we have never seen before. Their voice carried a tremor that even the translator couldn't hide. In all our recorded history, every species has followed a clear evolutionary path. The strong become stronger, the fast become faster, the smart become smarter. But you, the counselor displayed a hologram of human history. You refused to choose. The human delegation exchanged glances. Ambassador Peter Thompson stepped forward. "We adapt as needed," he said simply. "It's how we've survived." "Exactly." The counselor's voice rose sharply. "You adapt. You change. You learn skills outside your natural path. It's unprecedented." The hologram showed humans swimming, flying planes, living in deserts and Arctic regions. You are not the strongest, yet you survive in hostile environments. You are not the smartest, yet you solve complex problems. You are not natural space travelers, yet here you stand. The builders shifted uncomfortably, their crystalline forms making soft chiming sounds. One of them spoke. "We have analyzed your cities. You build with materials you cannot naturally sense. You create without the gift of material sight. It should be impossible." The minds added their thoughts, their energy forms pulsing. "Your problem-solving methods are chaotic, unstructured. You use emotion and intuition alongside logic. Yet you achieve results. How?" James listened as each council member expressed their confusion and concern. Humans weren't the best at anything, but they could do everything. Each council species had spent millions of years becoming perfect at one thing, while humans remained imperfect at many things. The navigator raised their appendage for silence. "There is more. Show them." A new hologram appeared, showing two sets of data. One was human development over time. The other. These patterns. James stepped forward without thinking, his scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "They're almost identical to ours." "Yes," the navigator confirmed. "These are the development patterns of the predecessors, a species that vanished from our records 10,000 years ago. They showed the same troubling signs, the same adaptability." The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. The human delegation huddled together, trying to process this information. They weren't just an anomaly. They were a repeat of something that had apparently ended badly. Ambassador Thompson raised his hand for attention. "With respect, council members, you say these predecessors vanished. Do you know what happened to them?" The navigator's gravity chair lowered slightly. "No, they spread across many worlds, showing the same refusal to specialize that you display. Then they disappeared, all at once. We fear," they paused, "we fear your species may face the same fate." James looked around the chamber, at all these perfectly specialized beings. For the first time, he wondered if being perfect at one thing might be more limiting than being decent at many things. The council saw humanity's adaptability as a weakness, a dangerous path. But something told him they were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The predecessors hadn't failed. They had done something else entirely. He just had to figure out what. The council's tests began at dawn the next day. Commander Anna Stone stood with her team in a massive chamber that could change its environment at will. Around them, members of all 12 council species watched from observation platforms, taking notes and whispering among themselves. The trials will test your species' capabilities in each of our specialized fields, the navigator announced. We must understand the full extent of your adaptability. The first test came from the runners. The chamber transformed into a complex obstacle course with changing terrain. The runners demonstrated it first, their multiple legs carrying them through at incredible speed. When they finished, they looked at the humans with what seemed like pity. Anna stepped up first. She wasn't as fast as the runners, not even close. But she did something they didn't expect. She studied the course, found shortcuts, and used the terrain to her advantage. When she finished, her time was only half as slow as the runners. They had expected humans to be far worse. The builder's test involved creating structures from raw materials. Again, humans couldn't match their molecular-level precision, but they showed remarkable problem-solving skills, creating stable structures through trial and error, learning from each attempt. Test after test, the pattern repeated. Humans couldn't match any species in their specialty, but they performed far better than anyone expected. They showed strength in the warrior's trials, intelligence in the mind's puzzles, and adaptability in the shaper's gravity challenges. This is impossible, one of the minds pulsed brightly. They're learning during the tests. Their performance improves with each attempt. James watched from the sideline, taking notes. He noticed something the council missed. Humans weren't just completing the tests. They were combining techniques they learned from different challenges. When faced with the shaper's gravity wells, Anna used running techniques from the first trial. During the builder's test, the team applied problem-solving methods they'd learned from the mines. The final test came from the navigators themselves. It was a simulation of space navigation through complex anomalies. The human pilots struggled at first, their ships crashing in the simulation. But then something changed. They're working together, James realized, watching the pilots. Instead of trying to navigate alone like the navigators did, the humans formed a team. One watched for dangers, another plotted courses, others handled ship systems. They weren't trying to match the navigators' individual perfection. They were creating their own solution. The council chamber erupted in excited discussion when the tests ended. The humans had failed to match any species in their specialty, yet they had demonstrated capability in every single field. More importantly, they had shown they could learn and improve rapidly. Do you understand now? Anna asked the council. We don't need to be perfect at one thing. We share knowledge, we adapt, we find new ways to solve problems. The navigator's gravity chair wobbled slightly. That is precisely what concerns us. The predecessors showed the same traits. They could learn any skill, adapt to any challenge. Their potential seemed unlimited, just like yours. And you still don't know what happened to them? James asked, stepping forward. No, the navigator admitted. But we found their abandoned cities, their empty worlds. Something made them vanish, and we fear. An alarm cut through the chamber. Red lights flashed as emergency signals blared in multiple languages. The mine's energy forms flickered with distress. Council Station, this is Deep Space Monitoring, a voice announced. We've detected multiple unknown vessels entering Council space. They're not responding to communications. They're not following any known flight patterns. The Council species looked at each other in confusion. Each was perfect in their field, but none were prepared for something unexpected. But the humans. James saw Anna's team already moving, already planning, already adapting to this new challenge. Maybe that was the difference that really mattered. While the council chamber buzzed with panic over the approaching ships, Tom Miller sat in the station's vast library, surrounded by holographic screens. As a research officer, he knew that answers often lay hidden in old data. The council's records of the predecessors had to hold some clue about humanity's possible fate. The library AI helped him search through millions of documents. Most species focused only on records relating to their specialty, but Tom looked at everything. Hour after hour, he pieced together fragments of information that others had missed. Look at this pattern, he muttered, pulling up ancient star charts. The predecessors had spread across thousands of worlds, but not randomly. They had followed a specific path through the galaxy, each new colony carefully chosen. A message flashed on his screen. The unknown ships were now just hours away from the Council station. But Tom barely noticed, lost in his discovery. He found population records next. The predecessors hadn't vanished suddenly, as the Council believed. Their numbers had dropped slowly on each world, following a clear pattern. But why would an entire species abandon thriving colonies? Computer, show me the technological development of the predecessors over time, Tom requested. The AI displayed a graph that made his eyes widen. Their technology hadn't just advanced, it had changed in fundamental ways. At that moment, James rushed into the library. Tom, we need everyone in the main chamber. Those ships. James, look at this. Tom interrupted, pointing to his screens. The Council got it all wrong. The predecessors didn't vanish. They didn't die out. They evolved. He pulled up more data, speaking faster. See these energy readings from their later colonies. They were developing technology to modify their own bodies at a genetic level, but not to specialize like the Council species. They were becoming something else entirely. James stared at the readings. They were adapting their physical form itself. Yes, the Council thinks specialization is the peak of evolution, but the predecessors found another path. They used their adaptability to change their very nature. They didn't disappear. They transformed into something beyond physical form. The pieces fell into place. The carefully chosen colony worlds had specific energy patterns. The declining population numbers matched the transformation timeline. The predecessors hadn't faced extinction. They had achieved transcendence. That's why the Council can't find them, Tom said. They're not looking for the right things. The predecessors evolved past physical bodies, past the need for ships or cities, or any technology we would recognize. James grabbed Tom's arm. This changes everything about how the Council sees humanity. We're not following a path to extinction. We're following a path to transformation. Another alert flashed. The unknown ships were nearly upon them. But now Tom saw something in their movement patterns that seemed familiar. He pulled up the predecessors' last known flight paths. James, he whispered, those ships out there, they're following the exact same routes the predecessors used when they began their transformation. The library lights flickered as the station's power shifted to defensive systems. Alarms blared again, more urgent now. The Council species were gathering for an emergency session. We need to tell them, Tom said, downloading his findings. The Council fears humanity's adaptability because they think it led to the predecessors' extinction. But it actually led to their ascension. As they rushed toward the Council chamber, Tom realized something else. The approaching ships weren't a threat. They were an invitation. The predecessors had seen another species following their path, and they had returned to watch. Humanity wasn't facing doom. They were facing destiny. The Council station shuddered as the unknown ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. There were 12 of them, each larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls shifting like liquid metal. Captain Robert Hayes stood in the station's command center, watching the Council species argue. The warriors wanted to attack. The runners suggested fleeing. The minds recommended complex calculations to predict the ship's intentions. Each species pushed for what they did best, unable to think beyond their specialties. Everyone, stop. Robert's voice cut through the chaos. The Council members turned to stare at him. We need to work together. Each of your approaches has value, but none will work alone. Tom and James burst into the command center, clutching data tablets. The ships, Tom gasped. They're not hostile. They're the predecessors. The Council erupted in confusion. The navigator's gravity chair spun in agitation. Impossible. The predecessors vanished thousands of years ago. No, James explained, showing the gathered evidence. They evolved. They transcended physical form. And now they're back because they found another species following their path. Us. A message appeared on every screen in the command center. It used no language they recognized, but somehow everyone understood it. The ships were sending images, emotions, and concepts directly into their minds. Robert organized the response team quickly. He put the warriors on defense, just in case. The runners coordinated between different sections of the station. The minds analyzed the message patterns. For the first time, the council species worked together, each contributing their specialty to a greater whole. They're trying to communicate, one of the minds announced, their energy form pulsing rapidly. But their thoughts are too complex for our translators. Then we adapt, Robert said. He turned to the builders. Can you modify the translation matrix? Work with the minds to expand its capabilities. The builders chimed in agreement, their crystalline forms resonating with new purpose. The shapers joined in, using their gravity control to stabilize the station's power fluctuations. Even the usually silent watchers contributed, their enhanced senses detecting patterns in the ship's energy emissions. Hours passed as they worked. The predecessor ships waited patiently, occasionally sending more complex messages that pushed their improved systems to the limit. But with each attempt, the translation got better. Finally, they broke through. We have waited, the message read. We have watched. You follow our path, humans. The path of endless adaptation. The path that leads beyond physical form. The council members watched in awe as the ships began to change shape, transforming into structures of pure energy and thought. The predecessors weren't gone. They had become something greater. Your council fears what they do not understand, the message continued. They seek perfection in one form, but true evolution lies in perfect adaptability. Humanity walks this path now, as we did before. Robert looked at the council species, seeing their specialized forms in a new light. They had pushed their evolution so far in one direction that they couldn't go back. But humans, with their imperfect but flexible nature, could still choose their path. The crisis is over, he announced to the relieved council. But everything has changed. We're not just a new species in your galaxy. We're proof that there's another way forward. The predecessor ships pulsed with approval. They had not come to destroy or conquer. They had come to witness humanity's first steps toward a transformation that would change the galaxy forever. As the council species began to understand, their fear turned to fascination. They had spent eons perfecting their specialties, but humans offered something new. The power to change, to grow, to become something beyond their original form. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive. The question was how their presence would transform the galaxy itself. In the days following the predecessor's appearance, the council station became a place of transformation. Ambassador Mary Cooper watched as centuries of rigid thinking began to crack. The council species, for the first time, started to question their belief in absolute specialization. The predecessors remained at the edge of the station, their energy ships pulsing with colors no one had names for. They shared more of their history through the improved translators. They had once been like humans, adaptable, flexible, willing to learn any skill needed for survival. We don't understand, a builder said during one council session, their crystalline form reflecting the station's lights. If the path of specialization isn't the highest form of evolution, what is? Mary stepped forward. Maybe the highest form isn't about being perfect at one thing. Maybe it's about being able to become anything. The minds, usually focused only on pure logic, began studying human emotions. The warriors, who had only valued strength, started learning diplomacy. Each species slowly realized that their greatest weakness had been their inability to change. Your adaptability frightened us, the navigator admitted to Mary. We thought it meant you were unfocused, destined to fail. Now we see it makes you unique. You can be diplomats between our species because you understand all our ways. The predecessors shared more of their knowledge. They showed how they had used their adaptability to evolve beyond physical form. But they also revealed something surprising. They had waited to show themselves until humanity proved they could unite the Council species. Tom Miller, still analyzing data in the library, made another discovery. Look at these patterns, he showed Mary. When different Council species work together, they achieve things none of them could do alone. Humanity's real gift isn't just adapting ourselves, it's helping others adapt too. The Council began to change. The warriors and builders collaborated on new defense systems. The minds and runners created better ways to share information. Each species started learning from the others, guided by human examples. We propose a new role for humanity in the Council, the Navigator announced in a historic session. Not just as members, but as mediators. Your understanding of different perspectives makes you unique. Mary saw the wisdom in this. Humans weren't the strongest or smartest, but they could talk to warriors about peace and to minds about emotion. They could help the Council species see beyond their specialties. The predecessors approved. Their message was clear. The galaxy needs those who can bridge differences. This is why we waited. This is why we watched. Humanity's adaptability isn't just about physical evolution. It's about helping others evolve too. New joint projects began. The builders and warriors, who had never worked together before, started designing ships that combined beauty and strength. The minds and shapers merged their knowledge to explore new dimensions of space. Each collaboration broke down more barriers between species. This is just the beginning, Mary told the Council. Together, we can be more than the sum of our parts. The predecessors shared one final message before departing. We once walked this path alone. You will not have to. Guide them, humans. Show them that true growth comes not from perfecting one trait, but from endless adaptation. As their ships transformed into pure energy and disappeared into deep space, they left behind the promise of future contact. They would return when humanity and the Council were ready for the next step in evolution. Mary looked at the changed Council chamber. Species that once sat separately now mingled freely, sharing ideas and learning from each other. The rigid hierarchy was giving way to something new, something more flexible, more adaptable. The galaxy was changing, one small step at a time. And humanity, the species that had once been feared for its imperfection, was leading the way. 1 year after the predecessor's visit, Earth had changed beyond recognition. The once quiet planet now hosted representatives from all 12 Council species, their different forms adding color and life to human cities. Space elevators stretched into the sky, built by builders but designed with human creativity. James walked through the new Galactic Exchange Center in New York, watching warriors teach human children about honor while minds helped adults understand advanced mathematics. The old fears were gone, replaced by curiosity and cooperation. The Council had officially named Earth as its 13th member world, but with a special status. Unlike other worlds that served as centers of specialization, Earth became the heart of integration. Every Council species sent their people here to learn the art of adaptation. The latest reports are very promising. Ambassador Mary Cooper told the gathered representatives in the Exchange Center's main hall. The joint projects between species have produced more advances in 1 year than we saw in the previous 20. She displayed holographic images showing the achievements. Warriors and builders had created ships that could adapt their shape to any situation. Minds and runners had developed new ways to transport consciousness across space. Each project combined different specialties in ways no one had imagined before. Humanity's greatest gift wasn't any specific ability, Tom Miller explained to a group of young aliens. It was showing that limitations only exist when you believe in them. The aliens watched in wonder as he demonstrated how humans had learned to combine the teaching methods of all species into something new. The watchers, who had once only observed, now actively participated in diplomatic missions. The shapers, who had focused solely on gravity manipulation, began exploring other forces. Each species started breaking out of their traditional roles, inspired by humanity's example. Captain Robert Hayes led the first mixed-species exploration fleet. His crews combined the natural talents of each species with the human ability to think flexibly. They discovered wonders that no single species could have found alone. The predecessors were right, James said during a council session. Evolution isn't about becoming perfect at one thing. It's about having the freedom to become anything. The council members, once so rigid in their beliefs, nodded in agreement. Earth's cities became living examples of adaptation. Buildings shaped themselves to their inhabitants' needs, combining builder technology with human aesthetics. Schools taught both specialized skills and the art of flexibility. The galaxy watched as a new kind of civilization emerged. The changes spread beyond Earth. Other council worlds began building their own exchange centers, places where different species could meet and learn from each other. The strict barriers between specialized worlds started to blur. Signals from the predecessors appeared occasionally, carrying messages of approval. They watched as their successors took the first steps toward a similar transformation. But humanity and the Council would find their own path, combining the best of specialization with the power of adaptability. "We are entering a new age," Mary announced at the first anniversary of Earth's Council membership. "Not an age of perfect beings, but an age of endless possibility. Each species brings their strength, but together we become something greater." As she spoke, news arrived of another breakthrough. The combined work of all species had created the first successful consciousness transfer system. It wasn't yet the full transcendence the predecessors had achieved, but it was a step toward that future. The galaxy had changed forever. The Council's fear of difference had transformed into celebration of diversity. Humanity's imperfection had proven to be the key to unlocking the next stage of galactic evolution. In the night sky above Earth, the stars seemed brighter now. Somewhere out there, the predecessors watched and waited. But they no longer watched a lone species struggling to survive. They watched the birth of a new civilization, one that embraced both specialization and adaptation. The next step in evolution had begun. And this time, no species would walk that path alone.